Hey ladies, my name is Dana and I am a Pilates instructor along with being a personal trainer and also a gym programmer, and I help women over the age of 50 regain their health, their fitness and their wellness. And I've been a personal fitness trainer since my mid-20s, and so I'm showing my age for over 30 years. Today I really wanted to talk to you about pelvic floor health, and if you are suffering any type of incontinence, I wanted to share with you a couple of things you may not realize about incontinence, and then I wanted to give you a couple of Pilates exercises that may be able to help you to be able to regain your strength through your pelvic floor. So before we get started, I do want you to know that firstly, you're not alone. So the research does suggest that at least 50% of women over the age of 50 suffer some type of incontinence. So half of us, and that's what we know about. So a lot of women get too embarrassed or ashamed to actually go and find out about it. So I would imagine it could potentially be worse again. But what I want you to know is that the research also suggests that we don't have to age with incontinence, and that through correct type of programming, correct type of exercises, we are able to regain our pelvic floor health. And if you are anything like me, I thought that if you were incontinent, that meant your pelvic floor was weak. Ladies, I will share with you that it wasn't until my early 40s that I discovered that there are different types of reasons that you can become incontinent. And as a Pilates instructor, and having been in the health and fitness industry for probably 20 years at that point, I was a little bit amazed. And so let me share with you what I discovered back then. And the way that it was explained to me was I ended up at a gynecologist, and when she was doing an examination, she said to me, "Do you realize that your pelvic floor is hypertonic?" And I went, "No." She said, "Your pelvic floor is actually too tight." And she said, you know, it is a common problem in Pilates instructors. And she said that tightness is what's creating your incontinence. Because at the time, I was struggling to be continent. And you can imagine, as a Pilates instructor, that confused me, because I was like, I do so much strengthening work. How could I be incontinent? But the reality was that the strengthening work that I was doing was actually making the problem worse rather than better. And if I said to you that you could have two different types of pelvic floor incontinence, hypertonic, which was me, your pelvic floor is tight, and because your pelvic floor is tight, that is why it is weak. Or you could have a pelvic floor that just is weak. Those muscles have become weakened and they need to strengthen. So if I came back to my hypertonic pelvic floor, I think of it like, if I asked you to strengthen your arm muscle, you would understand that you needed to do an exercise and you would be given so many repetitions of that exercise. And if you went to a gym programmer, for example, they would say to you, you've got to do 12 repetitions of this exercise, and they would talk to you about what we call full range of movement. Make sure that you're coming all the way up make sure you're coming all the way down. So when your pelvic floor is hypertonic, it's stuck in this position here. It is tight. So then if I said to you, you need to strengthen your pelvic floor, if you're unable to release your pelvic floor, you can't really get the repetitions in to make it nice and strong because it's sort of stuck in this position here. So you need a type of exercise program that teaches you to release and relax your pelvic floor. And once you're able to get that into play, then you're able to get your full range of movement in your pelvic floor strengthening exercises to allow you to regain your strength. Happy days. That would mean less incontinence. The other type of pelvic floor incontinence is our hypotonic. And hypotonic is that muscle that has weakened over time. And so you would find that as you've become older, you may have had a couple of pregnancies, you may, that muscles become weaker, and you would really benefit strongly from doing strengthening exercises in your Pilates work. So the girls that are in my boat will also benefit from Pilates strengthening exercises, but only if you've learnt how to release the pelvic floor to allow you to strengthen. So I hope that makes sense. Girls, I want to go through the different types of incontinence, which may give you a bit of a clue as to what type of incontinence you are dealing with. And remembering, I always recommend that we get the confidence to go to a health professional and get a referral to a pelvic floor specialist who just specializes in this and is able to give you a bit of a diagnosis and says, well, you're hypertonic, you're hypotonic, and understanding that it's a little bit of a different way of exercising to get to your ultimate goal of becoming continent again. And so step one would be go and get a diagnosis from a pelvic floor specialist. Step two is once you understand what you're dealing with, I then want you to then bring into practice your exercises. But if you haven't got to a health professional and you are curious, let me just give you some examples of where you may be headed. If you find that activity stops you from being continent, so if you jump, you laugh, you cough, you sneeze, and you find that you are a little bit incontinent when that happens, the likelihood is you are dealing with what we call stress incontinence. And the likelihood is that is coming from a pelvic floor weakness. So you would benefit from doing pelvic floor strengthening exercises. Then, well, we'll all benefit from that, but you'd be really beneficial into Pilates exercises. The next one is an urge incontinence, and this is what I was suffering from. It was like suddenly you had to go to number one, wee, but it was like the urge came out of nowhere, and if you can't find a toilet in time, you wet yourself. It's as if the brain, there's a connection to that nerve somewhere within you, and it's got to go wee, and then you're releasing. And so if you are suffering that urge incontinence, you may suffer from what I suffered from, which is a tightness in your pelvic floor, and you would benefit from learning how to release that pelvic floor and then combining that with your strengthening training. The third type is a bit of a combination of both, and we find in older women that this tends to be the case. We tend to have become weaker in our pelvic floor muscle due to aging, and at the same time we've got this urge incontinence going on where it seems to be a brain nerve connection that you're wanting to go in a moment, and very, very frustrating and uncomfortable. So those women that suffer from both will once again benefit from Pilates mat work classes, and once again concentrating on understanding strength and release movements to get the best results. The last type of incontinence that I'd just like you to be aware of is one called overflow incontinence. And what that means is you're having this urine leakage because the bladder isn't able to empty completely when it's full because there's a blockage there. So in men, often that's from like a prostate type cancer, but in women, it can mean a prolapse. And so your pelvic floor is starting to prolapse, and that can create a blockage which is stopping you from emptying completely, which is then creating an incontinence. If you are suffering from this type of incontinence, I truly encourage you to go and get professional help, because you may need some extra help in regard to meshing, or there's different types of help out there that can help you with that prolapse. So thinking about that as well. All right, so ladies, what I want to do now, and I want to help give you a couple of exercises that may assist with strengthening through this area. Okay, ladies, let's learn how to strengthen and also to release our pelvic floor depending on what type of incontinence you are suffering. And knowing that Pilates mat work classes can be of huge benefit to women our age for our continent health, also for our core health, such as helping us strengthen those muscles to protect our lower back, keep us in good posture, reduce the risk of injury, and all that good stuff as we age. But today we are focused on pelvic floor. So what I'd like you to do is initially pop your hands quite low on your tummy area, and I want you to bring your awareness internally. And I want you to think about your pelvic floor as a hammock, and it is a hammock or a muscle that runs from your pubic bone to your tailbone. So it runs through this way, and our aim is to keep it nice and lifted so it can support us in our pelvic floor health. So what I want you to do is just pop your hands lightly here, and I want you to think about internally. Imagine you're stopping the urine flow and you're also stopping your number twos. So now I want you to think about internally pulling up through the front and back passage. If you were doing a lift, it's like level 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I want you to think about that lift lowering back down. And as you're lowering back down, it's just releasing and relaxing. Let's try that again for me. So internally, front and back passage, pull up your hammock for me, level 1, 2, 3, 4. And then let's go back down to the ground level and just releasing as you head back down. Now from there, let's do one more. Internally, pulling up, hold, and then releasing all the way back down. Now, if you felt nothing, don't worry, it will come over time. Practice is key, as is consistency. But let me add Pilates breathing into the equation, which, ladies, can be a practice. So don't be over judgmental of yourself today. Just pop your hands lightly on your rib cage for me. And I want you to even shut your eyes and bring your awareness to your hands on your rib cage. And as you breathe in, I want you to feel your rib cage open and expand. And then as you breathe out slowly, you start to feel your rib cage contract and come back in. Let's try it again. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. what we're going to do is we're going to try the breathing and the strengthening together, remembering it's on the exhale that we're going to be pulling up internally, and it's on the inhale that we're going to be releasing. So let's pop our hands back on that rib cage. Take a breath in for preparation. Now, as you breathe out, I want you to internally pull up through the front and back passage, coming up through those different floors. And then I want you to inhale as you open up that pelvic floor and release and relax. Let's try it again. Exhale, internally pulling up, and inhale and release. Exhale, internally pulling up, and inhale and release. Once you get quite good at that, you can exhale and pull up and hold it there, and then just do little pull-ups. It's as if you're pulling up, pulling up, pulling up, little pulses, and then release and relax. Let's try that again. So internally pull up slowly, then do little pull-ups, and then inhale as you release and exhale. Now, if you're thinking, oh, that breathing seems back to front, you would be correct. It does feel that way. It is a practice, but basically you are doing the strengthening with the contraction. And so it's the exhale we're pulling up, and it's the inhale that we are releasing. Over time, it will become natural for you, but it does take time, effort, consistency to start with. Ladies, there's your starting point. From there, you progress into your Pilates mat work classes. Just to let you know, if you would like to work further with me, I do offer an online health club for women over the age of 50, and it is designed to give us what I call the 4 pillars of health. So there is an exercise library in there that gives you core training, which is all about Pilates. It also gives you strengthening workouts that are safe and effective for our age. It gives you cardio exercises looking after your heart health and your fitness. And it also gives you mobility and flexibility exercises that helps you with movement, range of movement through your joints, less pain and more flexibility. So go to my website to find out more if you are curious around that awesome one-on-one personal training, and join us. And we also have on there eating plans, recipes, challenges. We have a private Facebook support group, so it's all there for you. Thank you so much for joining me today, and reach out if you have any questions, leave a comment. And I look forward to supporting you further in your health, fitness and wellness as we age. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.